It's all going to zero against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever, Wally.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Yo, welcome to Smooth Bitcoin Live, your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, covering use culture, and manic warfare. Will be your guide through the separation of money and state. I'm back. Last week I was in Canada with my BTC sessions. We were doing the Bitcoin rodeo. It was absolutely awesome. I had a great time. Canada, I mean, that part of Canada is absolutely awesome. It's like totally freedom country, very freedom minded people and individuals. It was insane. I had a great time, and Ben was an incredible host. But I'm back, and I want to give a shout out to Opti for holding it down while I was gone, because I know I was gone quite a minute. But we're going to talk about a lot of things today, specifically this company coming out of Japan called Metaplanet. And it seems like Dylan LeClaire of Bitcoin Magazine is really kind of helping them. And it seems like they're pulling the Saylor MicroStrategy Bitcoin strategy, lots of strategies in that single sentence. And they're following in the footsteps. And I think that's going to catch on. I think a lot of other companies are going to follow suit. Of course, you had Saylor Scientific here in the US. You had rumblings of potentially Michael Dell, which is potentially going to follow in the footsteps of the Chad Saylor and co. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. So really exciting stuff overall. And in other news as well, also Greg Foss, it seems like he was missing for quite a while. Seems like he came back, and during the numbers segment, we're gonna play you a bullish bit from Greg Foss explaining why Bitcoin could potentially reach easily $2 million per coin, and then he talks about why Bitcoin today is essentially like, picking one of these internet stocks in the early 1990s. And I loved his breakdown. We're going to talk about that. Also, guys, when in doubt, it's important to zoom out. I know that the price has not been friendly to a lot of people, but you got to look back in Bitcoin's history, because we've been here many times in the past. We multiple corrections of 30, 40, 29, 33%. This has happened. I don't think the bull market is over. I think it's just getting started. I think that if it would have kept going, we would have had a crazy correction. I think things are going to start to pick up towards the end of the year. Usually summers tend to be boring. Also, one last thing I wanted to touch on. I'm pretty sure Opti touched on this last week. The Samurai Wallet devs got released on bail. I think it's a complete injustice that no banker went to jail in 2008 for what they did. No significant banker. I think they made an example out of one guy, relatively unknown, but none of the big guys, none of them went to jail for what they did. And then, they're locking Bitcoin developers in a box like that. That's a complete injustice. So we're going to talk about that as well. It's going to be a great show. I'm happy to be back in the host seat. But anyways, no more delay. I'll bring up Opti on screen. Opti, how you doing, bro? How was last week? And Opti needs to learn what an Ethernet cable is.
Am I messed up? I might be messed up. I'm good, man. They're saying in the chat, Nico needs to take more of a week off. I'm like, no, I think Opti needs a week off at this point. But no, man, it was good. It was fun. Man, it's great. This is our job. This is amazing. But yeah, it's good to have you back. I like just kicking back and hanging out with the chat. It's way more fun. But anyways, on that note, let's bring in our guests, because I think you guys are gonna love today's culture. We have, I would say, a culture war legend with us today, the Andrew Mayer. And of course, if you guys aren't familiar with him, he wrote an epic book, which has an epic title, Don't Tase Me, Bro, Real Questions, Fake News, and My Life as a Meme. But yeah, let's go. We could plug it. And then, of course, what we're going to talk about, he also released an incredible game called the Alex. What's it? Is it the real? No, the Alex Jones video game. And we're going to talk about that. But Nico, you segued us really good, because I asked Andrew what he wanted to talk about, and he's like, we need to keep pushing the narrative on the failing banking system. So, Andrew, thanks for showing up today. Say hello to the crowd, and also give people a little more TLDR on what you're working on and what you're about.
Thanks for the intro, Opti. That was great. Yeah, I'm like you said, been in the culture war, I don't know, 15 years. Probably most famous for, questioning John Kerry. Don't tase me, bro. That's me. Went super, super viral. It was everywhere. Jon Stewart, The Daily Show, CNN, MSNBC. Dave Chappelle was the only one that did a funny joke about it, actually. But the video game that you're talking about, it's called the NWO Wars, Alex Jones NWO Wars. So all the way back from Don't Tase Me, Bro to today, I just released what was the top trending game on Steam, Alex Jones NWO Wars. So you get to play as Alex Jones and go take out the globalists.
Metaphorically. So no, and dude, I want to. You're the Don't Tase Me, Bro guy. Holy cow! Well, dude, it's an honor to have you on the show. Did you end up getting tased? I forget because that was a long ago.
Oh,
that was a long time ago.
Very, very, very painful. Not fun. Don't recommend.
Man, that's bullshit. But dude, that video went absolutely. That was like the beginning of like the beginning of what I call the Great Awakening. Like if people were still not awake to the systems of control that are in place. But I think we're turning we're heading into a new era because the percentage of the population that's being awoken to what is actually going on has me incredibly bullish on the future.
Bro, I'm like a living bellwether for that. When the Don't Tase Me, Bro thing happened, like the mainstream media tried to make it into like a joke because they didn't want people to pay attention to what I was saying and how the police are behaving. Like a video on me went pretty decently viral on YouTube recently, and it's like, holy crap, this guy, everything he was saying was right. What the police did was terrible. Like it's a whole vibe shift from what it used to be 15 years ago. Like people are really waking up, and thank God for that.
Yeah, 100%. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be an incredible show. We have so much to cover. We have so much to talk about. Before we jump into that, of course, I have to give an incredibly special shout out to our lead sponsor. And if we're talking about Bitcoin Well, Bitcoin Well is the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. It's a publicly traded company coming out of Canada that recently expanded to all 50 US states. It is a self-custody by default Bitcoin platform. What does that mean? That means that you can't buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well unless you intend to take self-custody. They don't even give you the ability to leave your Bitcoin on the exchange, which perfectly aligns with the Simply Bitcoin ethos of the separation of money and state. To get started, go to bitcoinwell.com/simplybtc, put in your email address. Literally takes about a minute or two to get verified. And again, it's completely non-custodial, empowering sovereign ownership. Also, if you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn Bitcoin Well points, and you can use those points towards the Bitcoin Wishing Well. The Bitcoin Wishing Well is this kind of little contest thing. And by the way, if once you use those points, you have an opportunity, you toss a coin into the Bitcoin Wishing Well to win up to 1 million Satoshis. But I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to make you guys wait till the end of the show. So you watch till the end of the show, and then you guys will have an opportunity to scan the QR code and win up to 1 million Satoshis. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, let's get on with the show. Lots to talk about. Let's hit the numbers.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Is your seed phrase really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them on paper. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. You want to put your generational wealth on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. Your words are actually stamped into this metal plate with this hammer and these letter stamps. And once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamped seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. All things that paper is does not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin with peace of mind for the long haul. Stamp your seed on StampSeed. All right, I made it incredibly easy for you guys. All you got to do is scan the QR code on your screen, use promo code simply, get 15% off anything on the StampSeed website. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Stamp that on freaking titanium. All right, everybody, let's get to it. So Greg Foss has been gone for quite a little bit. He made a comeback, and I just this whole number segment, it's just kind of like a contribution to Foss, because I think he's a amazing member of the Bitcoin community. He's had some amazing takes, and he's contributed so much. So we want to give back on Simply Bitcoin. So here's one of our shorts that we made of Foss, and then we'll read one of his latest greatest takes. Anyways, let's check it out.
The total addressable market for Bitcoin is 900 trillion US dollars. That includes 400 trillion of debt. Below that is 300 trillion of real estate. Below that, 100 trillion of global equities. So we're up to 800 trillion. And below that is 100 trillion of other assets, including gold. You got 10 trillion of gold, you got currencies, commodities, everything else is another 100 trillion. In total, 400 plus 300 plus 100 plus 100 is 900 trillion US dollars total addressable market. If Bitcoin gets 5% of that, 5% of 900 trillion in today's dollars, 45 trillion divided by 21 million, we're over 2 million bucks US per Bitcoin in today's dollars. I don't know, I've never seen a better asymmetric trade in my life than the opportunity to own Bitcoin. Like, people, do the math. This is so simple.
Also, shout out to the Simply Bitcoin Shorts team for creating that as well. So, I mean, Foss doing the math, it's just math. And I mean, it's pretty, like, think about it, like the premium that real estate has, the amount of value that people are storing in real estate, even though you have to pay taxes, you have to pay maintenance. Like Bitcoin, you don't have to pay if it's just sitting on a Bitcoin wallet. Yeah, they're not making you pay taxes on that. And you don't have to pay maintenance on self-custody Bitcoin, right? But this is what happened with the fiat world. It's just Frankensteined everything. Like the belief, the psyop, the greatest psyop is this idea that somehow you have to become a part-time investor just to maintain purchasing power. That's psyop 1. Psyop 2. The idea that somehow money needs to lose value in order to function is insanity. Right. So I think a lot of these asset classes that are being used as stores of value because of how effed up central banking has made everything, I think a lot of that value is going to flow from inferior stores of value like real estate, like gold, like equities, to Bitcoin, which I would say is the superior store of value because of its physical characteristics. You can write down a 12-word, 24-word seed phrase. You could stamp it on titanium. You could take it anywhere with you, right? You can transact with anyone freely. It's an open monetary network. Anyways, you guys have heard the pitch. So here's one of Foss's latest bits. I absolutely love this take. He says, a short story from Foss. Why Bitcoin price today is just like Microsoft's stock price in 1992. It was about $2 US. Now it's $450 in 2024. In 92, I was working on a consulting contract at the Bank of Boston. The project was capital allocation and risk pricing for the various businesses. It was mandated by the Fed because the bank was insolvent. Previously, I had worked at Canada's largest bank, RBC, and the software packages we used were WordPerfect and Lotus 123. The two programs didn't talk to one another. Microsoft designed Excel, and Word to talk to one another so that importing info was simple and quick. Excel was almost as good as Lotus 123, and Word was better than WP, in my opinion. But the most important improvement was ease of combining documents and charts and macro programming. I was blown away. Here was an insolvent small New York, England bank that had already jumped to a new system standard, while RBC was slower to adapt. When I returned to Canada after my 5-month contract, I told everyone to buy Microsoft. Lotus 123 was private and you couldn't short it, but my thesis was that Microsoft would dominate the landscape for spreadsheets. At the time, Microsoft stock was $2 a share. 30 years later, it is 225 times higher. Bitcoin is in the same position today as Microsoft in 1992. Don't overthink, own Bitcoin and hodl. I 100% agree. And again, if you want to learn from the past, you kind of have to study it a little bit. And there's been multiple examples of not only Foss like showing you his lived experience, but also, you had the very famous video of Michael Saylor literally talking about, how buying Bitcoin today is like buying Apple stock 10 years ago. Right. This was before the smartphone revolution. Right. This was my era. I remember in high school, I was using a BlackBerry. The BlackBerry was the thing. Right. With BBM Messenger. It had Brick Breaker on it. Never could I have ever imagined, you would literally have, a computer that you can use with your fingers that allows you to order food to your home, buy airplane tickets, get a ride. You want an Uber to your phone, right? If you have a Tesla, it allows you to open your doors to your Tesla, control it anywhere. If you have camera systems, like your phone could do anything, right? The BlackBerry couldn't do that, right? So Michael Saylor saw, had the foresight to see that. And just like Foss has the foresight to see what Bitcoin will become, a decade from now, 2 decades from now, because he's lived it. He's had that lived experience before, right? So, appreciate Foss. We miss you, bro. Happy that you're back and you're a very, very valued member of the community. Anyways, Andrew, I'm going to start with you. It seems like Opti's still having some technical difficulties. He's going to be going to Best Buy today after the show so that he's non-pixelated tomorrow. Anyways, Andrew, what's your take on all this, brother?
I'm amazed by both your ability and Foss's ability to just put things very, very simply. You named your podcast very aptly. The way you make things for people is very simple. I was once upon a time the editor-in-chief of We Are Change, a major independent news network, and in 2011, I was telling people to buy Bitcoin when it was $300. And I wish I had been able to hold on to more of my Bitcoin from that point. I knew where it was going. I was just so broken those times I couldn't hold as much as I would have liked to. But yeah, I mean, my wife was telling me to buy it $3. We both listen to Max Kaiser all the time, and it's just very obvious where things are going. And the thing I always tell people, for mass adoption, everyone wants to tell people about how great Bitcoin is. But I think the reason that a lot of people got into Bitcoin and what a lot of people still don't understand is how bad the banking system is, why the money is being inflated, why the banks are failing. And I think the more people understand about the Federal Reserve and the currency, that's what really drives people into Bitcoin, when they realize there's no way the dollar is going to be able to hold value over time.
100%. I 100% agree with that. And I just wanted to ask you, as well as, dude, like, you're an OG. You got in extremely early. $300 Bitcoin. You mentioned $2 to $3 Bitcoin. Things were very, very different back then, weren't they?
I mean, it's funny. It was like this massive subculture. Like, if you knew about it, like you were a guy that knew, and nobody knew. But everybody that knew about it knew where it was going. Everybody knew where it was going, but it's like we were waiting for this wider world to find out about it. And now it's like we're in that stage again. It's just we've leveled up 100 times for the amount of people that know, but it's still early. It's still early.
You think it's still early, like because that's like one of the narratives, right? The narrative is that like diminishing returns. We're at 55K for Bitcoin to double from where it is today. It's a lot harder than for Bitcoin to double from $2. No. Okay. Tell us why.
Look at the dollar. The dollar. I just filled up my gas tank the other day. It was $60. I remember it was $30 a couple of years ago. So the value of the dollar keeps going like this. The more the dollar goes like this, the more people find out about Bitcoin going to keep going like this. You still got go talk to your parents or somebody's parents. The boomers hold most of the wealth. What do they know about Bitcoin? Their money managers think that it's a scam still to this day. So they're still getting used to the idea of it, the boomers that hold most of the wealth. So eventually they're going to add it as a hedge. Just like all these sovereign nations are now adding Bitcoin to their holdings. Not just El Salvador, but lots of nations are starting to add Bitcoin to the holdings of their nation. When the boomers as a generation add Bitcoin as an asset class to their portfolio, or when they all bite the dust and their inheritors start buying more of it, it's going to go like this still. So I think, friends of mine asked me when Bitcoin was going down from 60 to 58, where do you think it's going? It could hit 40. The fluctuations of Bitcoin are like this, but over time, it's like this. There's just no way around it.
Absolutely. Guys, if you're enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. Really, really helps with the algos. We're currently at 90 likes. Help us break 100 likes within the first 25 minutes of the show. So if you guys are tuned in on YouTube right now, smash that like button. You're listening to Simply Bitcoin Live, the most watched daily Bitcoin live show on YouTube, Rumble, and X. Opti seems to have dropped out. He's having some technical difficulties, but he'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to be holding it down with Andrew today. We have so much content still to unpack, but starting off strong, man, with Foss dropping the fire, Andrew dropping the fire, and dude, great. It's great to learn from people that have been in here a while, because now that we're kind of like in this little correction phase, right? It's like, how many times have you seen this, bro? Is Bitcoin dead?
Oh man,
is Bitcoin dead?
I remember when Bitcoin hit like 20K for the first time, and then it dropped to like 13, and then down to 6, and people, it's going to 0. I'm like, $6,000. It was just like it was just like 6 or 300. And you're crying that it's like 10x what it was, and that it lost half of its value. Like, it's gonna go back up. This is what it does. It peaks and it crashes out. Like, if people are freaking out about this little drop, I mean, you got to toughen up.
Exactly. You got to toughen up, Buttercup. Anyways, guys, we have so much stuff for you guys on today's show, so stay tuned. But before we do that, I do want to give an extremely special shout out to one of our sponsors. And of course, I'm talking about the party in Nashville, Tennessee. It's coming up, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be absolutely awesome. It's like literally like 2 weeks from now. And what is the Pleb Party? The Pleb Party is a 12-hour open bar. That's right. The drinks are included in the ticket from noon to midnight in Nashville, the day before the biggest Bitcoin conference in the world, Bitcoin 2024. So if you're going to the Bitcoin 2024 conference in Nashville, this is the event to be at the day before, Thursday, July 25th. You want to get your tickets quickly because they will sell out. Over 1,000 Bitcoiners are expected to be attending. The last Pleb Party in Miami sold out 8 days before. You will not be able to get tickets at the door. Confirmed attendees so far include Larry Lepard, Preston Pish, the entire Simply Bitcoin crew, James Lavish, Robert Breedlove, Mark Moss, Pubby, Tatum Turnup, Adam O'Brien, and many, many more. If you want to see me and Opti in the flesh and Rustin in the flesh, we'll see you guys at the Pleb Party in Nashville, July 25th. Scan the QR code or check the link in the video/podcast description to find out more information. All right, everybody, let's hit the news. We have a lot to talk about today.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more. All right, like always, I made it incredibly easy for you guys. Scan the QR code on your screen right now. It'll take you directly to the Foundation Devices website, where you guys could use promo code SIMPLY to get a discount on the Passport hardware wallet. Remember, guys, not your keys, not your cheese. If you don't take self-custody, it's not really your Bitcoin, right? You want to take self-custody of your Bitcoin. And of course, I recommend the Passport by Foundation Devices. All right, everybody. So I told you that we've been in this situation many, many times before, and we really have. Here's Adam Back even pointing it out. Remember, zoom out. Prior bull markets have had half a dozen 30% drawdowns too. We're about 26%, 27% earlier. In fact, if anything, recent drawdowns seem to be less steep, but people forget the normal bull market pattern. Don't panic, buy the dip or buy a bit of, I think he's mentioning MicroStrategy. Anyways, so here's Rect Capital. Bitcoin will retrace deep enough to convince you that the bull market is over, and then it will resume its uptrend. I think that's a really good point. We can't help, like, we have monkey brains. So when the price just keeps going up, we're like, oh, we got to buy. When the price dumps, we're like, oh my God, we got to sell, right? Time in the market beats timing the market. That's really key. Been 8 years in Bitcoin. Seems my friend here, Andrew, has been a little bit longer than I have. And I think we could both agree to that, right? Time in the market beats timing the market. Anyways, Andrew, you want to add to that before we move on to the next bit?
Yeah, there's a great meme. You could probably pull it up while I'm talking, called The Psychology of a Wall Street Cycle. Maybe you've seen it before, but basically it just shows, the FOMO. Oh no, it's going up. Now I got to buy. Everybody buys at its peak. Then it starts going down and people lose their minds. Oh my gosh, I got to sell off. And they sell it off. So they buy too late. They sell off too. There it is. You've seen this one before?
Yeah, of course.
That's it right there. If you know this, you can always be ahead of the cycle with Bitcoin, because we've seen it so many times. You can basically see what it's going to do. Like if you want to profit at the peak and sell off some, you can't, like, sell off half or whatever you can, and then, oh, it's going down. Great, I'm gonna buy more soon. So this is a time period. It's like you could buy more now, maybe wait a little bit and buy more if it drops a little bit more, but This is not time to panic. This is time to get greedy.
100%. 100% agree with you, bro. This is the time to get greedy. You have a 20%, 25% discount. This is when you double, triple, quadruple down. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about Metaplanet. Metaplanet, Japanese public company, Metaplanet has made another significant investment in Bitcoin, purchasing an additional 400, I forget. Do you know what the name of the Japanese currency is?
The yen.
The yen, thank you. $400 million, 400 million yen worth of the cryptocurrency. This move has increased their total holdings to 203 BTC, acquired at an average price of 10 million yen per coin. The company's strategy of investing in Bitcoin has been likened to that of MicroStrategy. So, I mean, look, I think other companies are going to follow the footsteps of MicroStrategy. I think you have 3 so far. Of course, you have Saylor Scientific, you have Metaplanet. Also, shout out to Bitcoin Magazine and Dylan LeClaire for really pushing that forward. And then, of course, you have the OG MicroStrategy. And then also, I know a lot of people hate Elon, because he's a bit of a shitcoiner with the whole Doge thing and whatever, but Tesla still owns like 8,000 Bitcoin, right? So, that is a massive company, Fortune 500 company that has a pretty big Bitcoin stack. And I think they learned their lesson too, because they sold a little bit early on that. I don't think they're going to do that again. Anyway, so what is Metaplanet? Here's their website. Metaplanet, secure the future with Bitcoin. It seems like they're just focusing on Bitcoin. So a little bit of a history of the company. Metaplanet boasts over a decade of diversified business engagement. With deep roots in Japan, our dynamic team comprises seasoned professionals with expertise in finance, trading, real estate, and Bitcoin. In response to the pandemic-induced investment landscape, Metaplanet comprehensively restructured its diverse assets and business, paving the way for a strategic pivot towards a Bitcoin-centric vision. That's interesting, right? Bitcoin centric. So MicroStrategy did kind of the same thing. They had a software company. It was kind of dying. It wasn't going anywhere. And then they pivoted, and now they're just a company that's just focusing on Bitcoin. Anyways, here's a little bit more info about the company itself. Metaplanet Inc., a publicly traded company listed on the Tokyo Stock Exchange, has embarked on a strategic transformation by leveraging Bitcoin as its principal treasury reserve asset. Metaplanet will utilize excess cash flow and implement a creditive corporate governance, including financial management strategies such as debt and equity financing to further its Bitcoin accumulation. The strategic pivot is driven by Bitcoin's unique attributes, including its absolute scarcity and apolitical monetary policy. Very similar. This is like the Japanese version of MicroStrategy. That's what I'm looking at. Anyways, Andrew, do you have any takes on this before we move on?
It just reminds me of what I was saying earlier. We were talking about basically institutional investors, nation states and BlackRock and other institutional investors, companies like MicroStrategy. A friend of mine introduced Saylor to Bitcoin, by the way. So I think there's more of that coming, more like massive institutional investors getting involved, seeing that just buying and holding this thing, it always goes up. It always reaches a new high, and that they're basically, especially if you're a hedge fund, something like that, you're derelict in your duty if you don't have this as an asset class. So Bitcoin go up, and I think more and more people, they want to look like geniuses, so they're going to say, I think we should add some of this Bitcoin to our holdings.
100%. And they got some heavy hitters on there. Of course, you have Mark Yusko, you have Dylan LeClaire. Just those are the ones that kind of stick out. So definitely some Bitcoin heavy hitters on the team. So look, another company following the steps of MicroStrategy. I think this is a trend that is going to continue 1,000,000%. Anyways, another thing that I want to talk about, perhaps Opti talked about this last week, but I wanted to get my take, and I'll get Andrew's take as well. U.S. government agreed to release Samurai's T-Dev on bail. It goes on to say the filing states that Hill is expected to appear in the Southern District of New York on July 9th or 10th, 2024, following his extradition from Portugal. Hill's defense requests that he be released to his home in Lisbon, Portugal, pending trial, while the U.S. government wants him extradited to the United States. Hill's bail is currently set at a $2 million bond provided by his family, which includes $200,000 in cash and a family home in New York. The defense is willing to increase the bail package to $3 million by adding additional family real estate in Europe if Hill is allowed to be released on bail to his home in Portugal. The defense asserts that Hill poses no flight risk, as the stringent bail package would leave his loved ones homeless if he failed to appear for trial. This also note that Hill is not facing a guaranteed sentence due to the novelty and aggressiveness of the charges. Hill's defense also describes the U.S. government's prosecution as, quote, aggressive, as it is expansive, akin to charging Apple for cybercrimes committed with MacBooks, and like such a crime, it is impermissibly uses criminal law to affect policy change. He is facing charges he can, should, and will contest at trial. And that's a really good point, and I can't emphasize this enough. This is something that we've been covering for months on Simply Bitcoin, is that they're not legislating through the legislative process. They're legislating through lawfare. What they're doing here is they're trying to set a precedent, just like they did with the Tornado Cash guy, and basically saying that if you develop code and that code is used by criminals to break the law, the coder is liable for that. Do you see how slippery that slope is? Like, that would be crazy. That'd be nuts. But of course, they're trying to set that precedent. The reason they're trying to set that precedent is because this is the separation of money and state. As the book, The Sovereign Individual, has mentioned many, many times, I'll read a small quote here. It says, businesses that offer the services that facilitate the realization of autonomy by individuals will be subject to infiltration, sabotage, and disruption, lacking their accustomed scope to tax and inflate governments, even in traditionally civil countries, will turn nasty. Right. So this is what I'm talking about, right? Any type of technology or any type of thing that allows people to reach a level of sovereignty, I think governments are not going to like that. You're seeing this on the information front as well, right? As governments try to crack down, they try to censor the free flow of information. But I think they're going to lose. And the reason they're going to lose is, first of all, Bitcoin is decentralized. Information is becoming more decentralized. And they weren't prepared for the fact that they always hoped, they always bet, they built their entire regulatory system on I think that they thought that there was always going to be a handful of intermediaries, a handful of custodians of which they can use, they can co-opt to put pressure on people. But what happens when there's mass scale peer-to-peer communications and mass scale peer-to-peer money? There is no custodian, there is no individual intermediary for you to co-opt as a government agency. Remember, the reason that they were able to control information the way that they used to is because there was only a handful of media outlets. You guys, unless your head has been buried under a rock or something, you guys know for a fact that the legacy media, like, they're not media, they're propaganda. Like they act like propaganda. They're not really like in the business of reporting what's going on. They're in the business of protecting the regime and protecting the status quo. They're not in the business of telling the truth, which is why you see the rise of independent content creators. This is why Joe Rogan is so popular. This is why Russell Brand is so popular. This is why Tucker is so popular. And they get way more numbers than any of the legacy media platforms and networks. And the reason for that is simple. They tell the truth. And it's very difficult for the government to just co-opt all these independent content creators. It's the same with the money. Before, the reason that they were able to get away with the 6102 order back in the 1930s was because there was a handful of custodians that kept everyone's gold. But what happens if everyone just held their gold? What happens if everyone just holds their private keys? Do you think the government's going to go door to door and say, hey, you holding your Bitcoin is a danger to society? Like, no. This is why self-custody is so important. Self-custody is a revolution. If enough of us do it, we will win. Anyways, so it goes on to say, it adds that FinCEN guidance has long made clear that peer-to-peer apps like Samurai Wallet do not qualify as money transmitting licenses. And again, this is why it's so dangerous. They're trying to set a precedent. They prosecute this guy, they find him guilty. Now it's a precedent. If you write certain code that the US government doesn't agree with, that other people use, you are somehow responsible for that. Could you see how that's a slippery slope? And they can say, oh, you're writing code for the Electrum wallet, for the Sparrow wallet, and it doesn't have KYC. That's a problem. And again, in my opinion, I'm not a lawyer. I think this is against the First Amendment because at the end of the day, speech is protected and code is speech. Anyways. So I think this is good news. Andrew, what's your take on all this, bro? I feel like I know that you feel as passionate about this as I do because, we're Bitcoiners at the end of the day.
Well, the first thing I think of is Ross Ulbricht. I'm friends with his mom, Lynn. He's famously prosecuted just for opening a site that you can trade things in crypto for. And I think that this is why the election is so important. You can want to be non-political, stay out of it. Both sides are stupid. But at the end of the day, the current administration, they're doing everything to prosecute people that promote cryptocurrency, that promote Bitcoin. The recent arrest and extradition of Roger Ver, the one that you just pointed out. So, I hate to bring it there. This show's been so nice and nonpartisan, non-political, but people got to vote for President Trump. Trump is promising to do everything to protect Bitcoin, to protect people that hold any type of crypto, and the difference is obvious. And when you say that the government goes after, I have a friend, his name is PDB. He's on Twitter now. He's getting big on Twitter. Literally, the only reason he even made a Twitter is because he created a baby formula so successful that it was taking to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars from Johnson & Johnson. They had terrible baby formula. He made organic baby formula. So the government came after him, cracked down on his baby formula, like they cracked down on the people that sell raw milk.
So hold on. To be fair, though, so we have been we took a neutral approach to the show in the political sense. until they locked the Samurai Wallet guys in jail. And then we said, listen, you have to vote for Trump or RFK. We publicly endorsed both of them because it became very obvious. One side of the political spectrum is so basically Biden, and what's behind him really, because we all know that Biden isn't really calling the shots, what I call the administrative state that is funded by the fiat money printer. They're pro CBDC, anti Bitcoin, and the other side is pro Bitcoin, anti CBDC. Like politics is irrelevant in this. It's that one guy is gonna be pro Bitcoin and the other guy's gonna be anti Bitcoin, right? Like it's as simple as that. And I think it's very uncomfortable for a lot of Bitcoiners to take a political stance and say, oh, I'm not voting. It's like, then you're literally like voting for more of this. And they're not going to stop. And this is what people have to understand. Like they're setting precedents with these cases, right? And before you know it, could you imagine? And this is not that crazy to think about. You saw the FBI kind of warning saying self-custody. Oh, very, very bad. Spooky. 5 years from now, you can imagine if you download a version of Sparrow that doesn't have KYC, you go to jail, right? Like that's where it's heading. So yeah, I think Bitcoin right now, it's becoming so influential, and we are becoming so influential as a voting as a voting base that politicians are pandering to us to get votes, right? Which I think is a testament to the power of our movement, right? But I gotta say, Andrew, 100% vote for Trump. Vote for Trump, vote for RFK. Really vote for Trump, because I don't think RFK really has a shot of winning. Anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt your thought, but I just want to interject there very quickly.
All good. I've been full on for Trump. I helped in a way get him elected in 2016. I was the editor-in-chief of We Are Change. I broke the spirit cooking story that let people know that literally Hillary's campaign manager was into actual satanic rituals, very sick stuff. But I don't always like to take it there, a show like this, because Bitcoin is for everybody. People don't think of it as political, but when you have enough power and enough money, everything becomes political, because there's an oligarch class that does not want people to have freedom, and Bitcoin is pure freedom. And you said earlier that it's crazy that they're going to go door to door and try and get your Bitcoin. The government did that in the 1930s. They went around looking for people's gold. They wanted to seize people's gold. And Bitcoin is digital gold. So yeah, they don't want the people to have the power. The oligarchs, the people that puppet Joe Biden, they want to have all the power. And there's plenty of dirty Republicans as well, but President Trump is pretty obviously pro-humanity. So you're either on team humanity, you want people to be able to succeed and have money and have power, or you want to control everything and you're a sicko like Joe Biden and the people that own him. So it's pretty obvious to me. And if one more point, you're talking about the media. The name of my book is Don't Tase Me, Bro. Real Questions, Fake News, and My Life as a Meme. The media lies, bro. They lie. This book is full of instance. They're deep, dark liars. If you've ever been covered by the media, you would know this. They lie every chance they get, and they're blatant about it these days.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I think that there's a great awakening, and I think people are starting to realize that, right? Is that the media is not media. The media is propaganda. And I think that's why Twitter is the most popular news app, and it's not the New York Times, because I think people are awakened to that. People are realizing this, right? So anyways, all right, guys, before we move on to the next bit, I do want to give an extremely special shout out to our sponsor. And of course, I'm talking about the Pill app. The Orange Pill app is the place where you're going to stack friends who stack sats. It's the Bitcoin social layer. There's currently 11,178 Bitcoiners that are currently on the app. It is one of the best ways to connect with Bitcoiners. So if you move to a new city, you don't know anyone around you, or perhaps you've lived in your city for a very long time, you just don't know any Bitcoiners around you, open up the Orange Pill app. Because the Orange Pill app will literally show you, has a geographical feature, and it will literally show you the Bitcoiners that are near you. So you definitely want to download the Orange Pill app. That's one of the best ways to reach me directly. You could send me a message, a DM, and I make sure to answer every single one of them. So download the Orange Pill app today. Stack friends who stack sats. All right, everybody, let's hit the culture. Lots to talk about.
The Daily Culture.
I want to give a shout out to KABOOMRACKS. KABOOMRACKS is the most trusted place to buy, sell, and host mining equipment. You can check out their racks by scanning the QR code on your screen. Also, that will take you direct to their Telegram marketplace where you can connect with a member with their sales team. They make purchasing their products easy and transparent. You could also sell your mining equipment with them, access their vast network of domestic and international customers when you sell your mining equipment with KABOOMRACKS. So check out KABOOMRACKS today. Like I said, scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. Anyways, I'll pivot back the conversation to Andrew. Andrew, you were dropping some hot fire before earlier, my friend, and I want to talk about that. So you're pushing the narrative. Banking system is broken. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, basically, I think a lot of people don't understand that the Federal Reserve, look at it from its inception. You know, it used to be, we talked about $1 from its inception was worth 4 cents. I haven't seen it recently. It's probably down to 2 cents. What you would used to get for the purchasing power of $1. It's insane. And I think most people don't quite get it. That's the origin of Bitcoin. That's the mass adoption from the public will come when they realize what the Federal Reserve is, what they've done to our currency, and how Bitcoin is stable in relation to the dollar. Because they keep printing the dollar, they make trillions and trillions of it, they give it away to foreign nations for the military-industrial complex, and there's no way that it can hold value at this rate. Whereas Bitcoin, it's only growing in its adoption. The U.S. is losing patrons of the petrodollar. We're losing nations like Saudi Arabia. We're losing to the BRICS nations. So what's your alternative? If you're not a big believer in the BRICS currencies, and I'm not, the alternative is obviously Bitcoin. So the more people understand that, the closer we'll get to mass adoption. And to that point, only through culture. Things like this show, like you create a cool environment, it's fun to watch. This is what can get people hooked into Bitcoin. I made the Alex Jones video game because I wanted people to start showing the narratives of what's really happening in the news to the next generation. That's what brings mass adoption. And I'll let you in early the way I let people in on Bitcoin early when I was talking about it back when it was 300 a coin. I'm working on my next video game is about Bitcoin, and I'm looking for if there's a strategic partner for me out there listening to this right now. I'm looking for one partner that knows Bitcoin very well, that would be the right person to work with. I'm looking for one strategic partner as an investor in the game. And the Alex Jones game, by the way, that's the funniest game you'll ever play in your life. It's so much fun.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Like what is this? Like it like what type of game is it? Like, is it like a jump, run, and gun? Like Alex has endorsed it himself as well.
Alex does all the voices in the game. They're turning the friggin' frogs gay. Like that's in the game. You shoot the gay frogs. That's clearly Epstein Island right there. It's a side scroller like Contra or like Metal Slug. So it's like a classic Nintendo, Super Nintendo game. It's a very simple game. It's very fun, but it's something that you'll enjoy playing and that you can pass on to the next generation, so that the kids today, they're not playing some woke, crazy. You've seen, I'm sure, some of the stuff of what the new game studios are doing, how they're fashioning in weird, woke politics into video games. Instead of giving kids that, you can give them this and help them expand their mind and win the info war.
100%. And I got to emphasize that, like, we are in an info war. Like, this is an info war, 1,000,000%. Seems like Opti is back.
I don't know. I'm sweaty, but I ran out and got hardwired Ethernet, so hopefully it's better. We'll see what happens.
Slightly better. It still seems like you're slightly in the matrix. But yeah. So man, that's absolutely incredible. And I want to talk a little bit about that, which is you're talking about the info war, right? And I think it's an info war. It's a culture war. I think those things are incredibly important for Bitcoin to succeed, right? Because at the end of the day, we always talk about this is separation of money and state. Is not a kinetic war. It's an information war. It's literally about winning over the hearts and minds of individuals and waking them up to the reality of Bitcoin fixes this, right? It's not a left versus right thing in my opinion. I believe that it's the party of green, the party of fiat, collectivism, slavery, usury, war, nihilism, versus the party of Bitcoin, peace, prosperity, opportunity, hope, all that stuff. So could you touch a little bit about the importance of the culture war and the info war?
Yeah, there's just no way that we can ever win people over without putting cool things into the culture. The mass adoption of anything, it comes through culture. It comes through movies, music, video games. And for people that don't know, video games are now a bigger industry than music and movies combined. That's what young men spend their money and time on. If you want to get into the culture, video games are where it's at, especially. But anything for mass adoption, whether it's Bitcoin or any message you want to get out there, it's got to be through making it cool. It's the rule of cool. If you make something cool, it'll get picked up by the masses. If you just, only intellectualize about something, like I was just at the Libertarian Convention in DC a couple weeks ago, and it's such an intellectual movement that it never reached mass adoption. The only way it got into the public sphere, really, the ideas of it, were through Ron Paul and then Donald Trump. You have to popularize things by making them cool. That's what makes anything popular. So culture, especially things like this podcast, the Alex Jones video game, and my upcoming Bitcoin game, that's the type of stuff that can take the culture and shift where it's going.
100%. 100%. Because it's kind of like a war on many fronts, right? And I forget is the great, and you're gonna know this quote, Andrew, is the great Andrew Breitbart, right? Where politics is downstream from culture, right? You have to win over the culture. If you win over the culture, you win the game. And the problem is that the culture right now is corrupted. I would like to make the case that it is because of fiat. Like Ben and I, BTC Sessions and I were talking about this, where there's this book called When Money Dies. And it was essentially describing the era before the war, Weimar Republic, Germany, when it was on the verge of going through hyperinflation. And you see the politicians doing exactly the same thing and the degeneracy in society. And you're kind of seeing something very similar. So, and I would say that money plays a very, very pivotal role in the human experience. And you can even say that if you use a corrupt money, you could make an argument that it corrupts your soul. I've seen so many people adopt a Bitcoin standard, and all of a sudden they're more connected with the spiritual realm. They're more connected with the universe. They're more connected with themselves. And then you could see that if someone has this belief that money could be printed out of thin air, like think about all the things, downstream of that, the unintended consequences of that. Like you think that you could essentially play God in a way, because money, look, if you can just fix, the wealth inequality or the wealth issues or the poverty by printing money, Zimbabwe would be one of the wealthiest countries on the face of the earth. Clearly that doesn't work. Clearly the only way to create wealth is by creating wealth, by making things, by producing, right? So printing money out of thin air doesn't fix things, but a huge percentage of society still believes that somehow printing money, can just pay for everything, where what it actually is, printing money, is wealth redistribution. You're stealing from other people. You're stealing their work and their energy, and you're redistributing it the way that money printed. Really, you're redistributing it back to the government and back to the very wealthy that have the means to save in assets. So Bitcoin fixes this. Andrew, what's your take?
That's exactly right. The money printer doesn't benefit the people. It benefits the very top and the very bottom. So it's got to stop. I think that Bitcoin is the answer for a lot of the problems that are going on in society. I'm orange pilled, And I think the more people wake up, the better it's going to be. And I think we're getting there. And that's why this politics stuff matters, because they're really trying to stomp on Bitcoin, squash it out. They want these CBDCs, these central bank digital currencies, to replace Bitcoin. They don't want Bitcoin to be the thing because Bitcoin's decentralized and free. They want to own all of the wealth, including all of the cryptocurrency. So, your chat is savage. I love your chat. The people are all awesome. Even the people that were saying, Trump is whatever. But if you love Bitcoin, if you want financial freedom, you got to realize that, there's plenty of negative Republicans. Don't get me wrong. But Trump has actually promised. He's promised to free Ross. He's promised to protect crypto. And Joe Biden, you're seeing the prosecutions that his administration is doing right now. They're trying to stamp out the future of Bitcoin. So
Absolutely.
People got to wake up.
100%. So Andrew, I got a question for you. Why is that, a lot of, these conservative pundits, including Alex Jones, right? That you would like Bitcoin fixes a lot of this, but they just don't see it. They still have like a lot of their sponsors are like, these like traditional gold companies, like, I don't want to name any by names, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you've seen this before. You've been around that world. Why haven't they woken up to the fact? I was with JP Sears over the weekend at the Bitcoin Rodeo. We were doing the roast of BTC sessions, and I remember I was like, and he's getting into the Bitcoin world, and he spoke at the previous Bitcoin conference, and you have Russell Brand who's speaking at this Bitcoin conference. So it seems like we're crossing the chasm a little bit. But it still seemed like a lot of these conservative pundits with huge, massive followings still have not like woken up to Bitcoin. Why do you believe that is, Andrew?
Well, Alex Jones in particular, I've seen him be friendly towards Bitcoin. He deeply regrets not taking the Bitcoin wallet with Bitcoin on it that Max Kaiser offered him years and years and years ago when Bitcoin was $5 a coin. But I think more people are getting it. But as far as why are they pushing more gold versus pushing Bitcoin, you have to understand the gold companies, they pay big bucks for advertising. Because, again, we talked about the boomers. The boomers that do get scared about the dollar's future, they run to gold. They run to hard metals. So the gold companies are making bank. They don't quite understand Bitcoin. So when the boomers finally get it, if ever, that $2 million a Bitcoin prediction is going to look like chump change. It could be way more than that, but it's until the American boomer investors figure it out or pass on the wealth, that the generational jump that will prove how early we are right now, even at $50,000-$60,000 Bitcoin, how early we are right now is when the wealth isn't in the hands of the boomers anymore, because they're buying gold, they're buying silver, and that's why a lot of the right-wing pundits, why are they pumping gold and silver? That's who's paying them, because that's what the market is buying, and the market is the boomers. So
100%. 100%.
Yeah, somebody said your chat is so great.
Yeah,
Somebody said
they're great.
Normies listen to Dave Ramsey and he shits on Bitcoin. That's bingo number one.
Exactly. But it also this is the opportunity, because if people were awake, if the boomers were awake, right, then there'd be less opportunity in Bitcoin, I would say, in terms of number go up. Anyways, we are getting to the top of the hour. Andrew, I do want to thank you for coming on the show. Where can people find you, and where can people find your game?
You could find, first of all, the Alex Jones game. Please go to alexjonesgame.com. If you buy the game, you don't buy the game, great. Watch the trailer. You will laugh your ass off. alexjonesgame.com. Watch the trailer for NWO Wars. It's a great game. You can find me at twitter.com/theandrewmeyer. And before I go, somebody asked in the chat, how does the money printer help the bottom? They know how it helps the top because they print the money for the banks. They print it for themselves. How does it help the bottom? The bottom lives off welfare, the $1,200 checks that were printed during COVID. The people at the very bottom love it just as much as the people at the very top. It's the middle class that's being squeezed by everything.
Yes.
And we've got to band together and fight back. Buy some Bitcoin. and share this pod. This is great. This is a very fun show that is also very entertaining. I've never seen Bitcoin done this well on a show. I've seen many people try it, and you actually succeed at it. Great show.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Andrew. Appreciate you coming on the show today. You have any final thoughts for the audience? What would it be?
Ooh, final thoughts to the audience. This might be very controversial, but I got to tell you, I love God. I hope people connect to God as well as Bitcoin. You know, I always tell people about the Holy Grail, the literal Holy Grail, the deepest, the soul of the Bible is at Zohar.com. That's a little off the beaten track what we're talking about, but what the heck? That's my deepest thought. And love you, bro. Love this audience, and I hope to come again and do it soon. That was a lot of fun.
Absolutely, Andrew. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Guys, you can follow Andrew at the Andrew Mayer. Go check him out. Andrew, appreciate you joining us today.
Cheers, bro.
Thanks, dude. All right, everybody. So I did promise you we are going to give away some sats. Well, we're not going to give away some sats. Our boys over at bitcoinwell.com, best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. Anyways, guys, every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn points, and you can use those points towards the Bitcoin wishing well like we're going to do right now. Except this time, I'm going to leave the QR code up on screen. You have a chance to win up to 1 million Satoshis. First person to scan the QR code gets the free sats. So we're going to toss a coin into the Bitcoin wishing well. And I don't know what happened there. Let's do that one more time. Seems like we're having a little bit of a bug. I don't know what's going on. Let's refresh the screen. Let's try that one more time. Here we go. Nope, seems like we're having a little bit of crash. I have to talk to the Bitcoin wishing well team. I don't know what's going on, but damn, I don't know what's going on. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. Well, we'll be back tomorrow. And anyways, guys, love you all. Opti will be back. Had some technical difficulties today. Gonna find out what's going on with the Bitcoin wishing well. Seems like it's having a little bit of a glitch. But until then, guys, smash the like button. Consider subscribing. We love you all. We'll be back tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. Peace out, everybody.
Episode was brought to you by bitcoinwell.com, on a mission to enable independence.